Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Saad Sadiq here for PakPassion.net. My guest today is somebody who I've interviewed on a few occasions. Always a pleasure speaking with him. A renowned name in the world of cricket coaching, former New Zealand, Argentina, Kenya head coach. He's coached at the IPL, Kings 11 Punjab. He was director of cricket for the Royal Challengers Bangalore, and more recently, he's been the head coach of Islamabad United. Very warm welcome once again to Mike Hesson. Mike, thanks very much for joining me.
No, pleasure. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just finishing some breakfast, but look forward to having a chat.
No problem, Mike. You enjoy your breakfast while we chat. Mike, let's start talking about PSL 10, and how happy are you with your squad? It looks pretty strong on paper.
Yeah, look, we're very happy. We were happy to be able to retain the players that we did, albeit we couldn't retain everyone we wanted. And I guess that's the flow on from having a successful year that, a lot of players did well. And you've got to make some decisions around who you can keep and who you can't. So some really difficult decisions there. Fahim Ashraf is Islamabad United, been there since the second season. A great character, great guy to have in the group. But the challenge for us is, you can only have so many people in each category. And as I said, we'd love to hang on to 2 or 3 more players, but we just couldn't. So, we're happy with where we left it heading into the draft. We knew Fahim would get picked up, or we had an idea Fahim would get picked up in a higher category, which we didn't have slots in anyway. And I guess we were also a little bit reliant on what happened before us. When you got the 6th pick in Platinum, a lot of players go before then. So, we had a depth chart that was pretty deep. And in the end, we were pretty lucky to get a player of Matt Short's quality in that round.
Imad, Wasim and Mohammad Nawaz, interesting picks, Mike. Most people wouldn't have thought that they'd find room in the same squad, the same team. What's the thinking behind having both of them?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Imad Wasim was a great player for us towards the back end of the year. He's experienced. He's a key part to our side. But we also, 2 things really. We need a little bit of cover. The cover of a left arm spinner in the squad. Like if something happened to Imad, we don't want to be left exposed because we know the value of a left arm spinner in the squad. And we also know the value of having a left-handed batter through the middle as well. And, most of our starting side are all right-handers. So we needed a power player through the middle there. We had 2 or 3 in mind, from a batting point of view, but we also know the quality of Mohammad Nawaz's hitting ability. And that's certainly something that, if we get conditions where we think we need a left-hander, left-handed power player through the middle, then he could fulfill that role as well. So, yeah, they won't necessarily play in the same team. And, Imad Wasim's obviously our number 1, but we know that Mohammad Nawaz brings some different qualities as well that, we can use, whether it's with the ball or even just with the bat.
Your squad is packed full of all-rounders, Mike. It seems to be a deliberate policy. Is that something that you'd planned upon?
I mean, you go backwards in terms of the style of play you want. Islamabad United is known for that attacking brand of cricket. And you can do that with quality, but you can only really do that if you have depth of batting as well. And, we're really fortunate, probably because our style of play suits having multi-skilled cricketers. And that's important. Also, it means that when you come to different conditions, you don't actually have to change your side hugely. When you might have 7, 8 bowling options at times. Some players won't bowl because they don't need to, but they offer it other ways. They can be a finisher with the bat, or they can play a role that you require through the middle. So therefore, you don't have to change your team too much. I think we know that this year, the time of year, there'll be times where the pitches are slower and lower, and our side will get adjusted accordingly. But the majority of the games will be able to have a similar sort of squad.
Islamabad United are well known for left field picks, players that other franchises don't necessarily spot. Now, one that sticks out is Andries Gous. I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly or not.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, the USA guy. So, I mean, where's that thinking come from regarding picking him, Mike?
Well, our keeper, Azam Khan, is obviously a frontline batsman for us. So the key is, we didn't feel like we could fulfill that straight swap, from a local player. Azam, we expect sort of high volume, high intensity, high strike rate. So that's a role that we feel we can fill outside. And we had a silver pick available, and we weren't able to get another domestic player in that category. So we felt that was a role where we could fulfill with, some real quality that people probably don't know a huge amount about. He got 80 odd against South Africa at the T20 World Cup. Against a formidable side. His record in the franchise scene is exceptional. Can bat at the top of the order, can bat in the middle, very good player of spin, and an excellent keeper. So, there are very few players that tick all those boxes, and for us to be able to get Andries, who also will come with some real, desire to make an impact. He might not play a huge amount of games. He could play lots. Who knows, depending on what happens. But he certainly gives us flexibility, and he certainly gives us as I said, a silver player who gives us real value. So that's kind of what you're always looking for.
You mentioned Azam Khan, and that was my next question, really. Azam Khan and Haider Ali, Mike, are two enigmas when it comes to Pakistan international cricket. Both are players who many thought would kick on and become regulars in certainly in white ball cricket for Pakistan in the T20 format. Are you surprised that neither have really been able to establish themselves? I mean, obviously you picked both of them again for Islamabad.
Sorry, what was the second name you said? Did you say Haider Ali?
Haider Ali, yes.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Haider first. I'm really delighted the way Haider's going at the moment. We've sort of shifted him from being a top order player to being a finisher, which I think is a role that Pakistan desperately need. And his form as a finisher, and even through the middle overs, has been sort of exceptional in the last 6 months. Or since the last PSL. So I'm really hopeful that he will, start to play some more international cricket now. So I think the one thing that happens in Pakistan and doesn't happen in other countries is often players get picked earlier and then they get discarded earlier. And, from my perspective, Haider's a player who, had some learnings from his first time with Pakistan, went away, was sort of in the wilderness for a little bit. And I think he's come back. We've given him a different role. He's won a couple of games even in the BPL in recent times, going out and playing that finisher's role, which is such a difficult role to fill. And it's also a role where your success rate is often lower. But when you have an impact, you have to win the game. So really pleased the way he's coming on. And I'm actually certain that he will play more for Pakistan in the coming years. Azam's an interesting one. He's often maligned for things that aren't actually involved in cricket. And that's probably the thing that I find a little bit frustrating. I think Azam's at a crossroads in his career where, he's got to decide what he wants to do, what type of player he wants to be. Whether he's going to be used in that middle order role, whether, he's batted at the top in the CPL as well. And that's something that could eventuate this PSL also. So, he's at a stage in his career where he needs a big season, and I know he's highly motivated to do that.
Mike, regarding timing of the PSL this year, before we started the interview, we were having a chat. It's obviously a challenge that the PSL is, up against the IPL this time around. Did that make picking players a little bit more difficult? And what do you think about that decision regarding the PSL squaring off against the IPL?
Look, I think when I first heard the timing, I was a bit wary of it, thinking, the challenge for players could be difficult. But in fact, it's almost the opposite. Last year, for example, the PSL was competing with 3 tournaments, and players were spread across 3 different tournaments that took well over 130 players out of the equation. It also, the timing of it also takes out countries from the Southern Hemisphere in the old timing. So you're often getting English players come over, but you couldn't get Australians, New Zealanders, South Africans, etc. It was finding it very difficult. Now, you miss the 80 players that get picked in the IPL auction, and outside of that, pretty much everyone was available. Some big names signed up at the PSL draft that haven't been able to be signed up in the previous few years because of the timing. So it's actually worked well. From a quality perspective, I'm sure the PSL will be stronger. Even just looking at the squads are significantly stronger than they were last year. So they might have fallen upon something that could work. I know they had to do it because of the Champions Trophy, but who knows? I know they've committed for 2 years. Let's just see. It could end up being a nice window for the PSL.
Reigning champions, it's never easy to defend the title, Mike, but you must be confident.
Oh, look, I think one season doesn't roll over to another. There's definitely the excitement of the victory, and winning a 3rd title for Islamabad United. It was big for the fan base and everybody involved with the team. So, but we know, as I said, the squads are stronger this side. This time we have to be stronger. Really looking forward to playing a brand of cricket that will entertain, and I think we've got the players to be able to do that. And I think if we have that style and that ability to entertain, then results sort of take care of themselves.
Islamabad are famous for spotting young talent, giving them opportunities, and developing that talent, Mike. And obviously, you enjoy working with some of these young players. I mean, the emerging name that sticks out at the moment is Saad Masood. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, I can. Saad I'd almost call him like a young Shadab Khan. I think he's got the potential to be that good. He's from a batting point of view, he's already had some success at the domestic level and at the higher levels of the domestic level. He's a little power-packed player, I think, is probably the nicest way to describe him. He's got very sound technique, gets his body in a good position and generates power sort of 360 degrees, which is, an immense, which is a great quality to have. Obviously, he's a developing leg spinner who's, has got most of the tricks on offer, but that side of his game is very much developing. But he's excellent in the field, and he's a player who, we could use up and down the order. I spoke to him the other day. He said he's pretty much batted everywhere from 1 to 11 in domestic cricket. So he's had a number of experiences already at such a young age. I was surprised he didn't go earlier. We were really hopeful to get him, but we thought we wouldn't be able to. We obviously had the right to match on one of the Shah brothers if we needed to use it. So we were delighted when our turn came up and we were able to get Saad Masood. I think he's got the ability to be a superstar in the future, and it'd be great for Islamabad United to give him that first opportunity.
You mentioned Shadab Khan, Mike, and he's obviously out of favour at the moment in international cricket. Are you a little bit surprised that Pakistan have discarded him, and surely he's going to have a point to prove at this PSL?
Oh, look, it's interesting, the point to prove. I mean, last year he was the player of the tournament. After that he went to Sri Lanka. He was the player of the tournament there. He had a couple of poor games where he didn't, he wasn't at his best. He also, when he got the right opportunity and he batted in the middle in New Zealand, he also did well. And then he got shuffled down to 7 or 8. So, I mean, he's got moved all around the place. Shadab Khan is an exceptional talent, and he's a talent like most international cricketers that need people to show that they support him and they back him. And to have him not playing for Pakistan at the moment, for me, is a disgrace. He is one of the very best players in Pakistan, and he proves that time and time again. So, I don't think it'll be long before he's back, and I don't think it'll be long before he's back performing for Pakistan.
And the Champions Trophy, Mike, it's brilliant that it's in Pakistan. Pakistan hasn't had an ICC tournament for a very long time. Who do you see as the teams that are, potential winners?
Well, I think at the time of year that it will be played, I think the surfaces will be very good. So they'll be true. So I think it's the sides that have the best bowling attacks will do well. So, and that, when you talk about the top 8, there's very few that you can't consider. I mean, Australia's, consistently does well. The fact they're in Sri Lanka at the moment, they'll be pretty well prepared for any conditions that do turn. England with Brendan McCullum coming in and taking over, who knows? They've certainly got they've got airspeed with Adil Rashid. They've got the likes of Livingston. They've got Adil Rashid, a serious spin bowling option as well, and they bat pretty deep. So I mean, they will in a tournament this short. You've only got to get on a bit of a roll. So, and I think India and Pakistan because of home conditions. And once again, you get on a roll, you never know. And India are always right up there at the moment. I'm not so sure about South Africa. They've lost, quite a few of their bowling stocks in recent times through injury. So I think that'll potentially move them down the pecking order a little bit. New Zealand always front up in those tournaments. You just never know. So, I mean, there's not many people that I've left out, to be honest with you. And that's why I like the Champions Trophy.
I was just going to say, I think you've named all 8 teams as potential winners there.
Yeah.
Mike, one final question. Gary Kirsten, Jason Gillespie, Aqib Javed, Mike Hesson soon, maybe?
Oh, look, I think returning to international cricket's, something that, I mentioned sort of 6 months ago is probably a couple of years away in terms of doing that. But I've certainly enjoyed my season at Islamabad United. Loved dealing with the players there, the owners. It's a good organisation. So, certainly enjoying that at the moment. And that's sort of where my focus is.
Always appreciate your time, Mike, and wish you all the best in the upcoming months and then also for the PSL as well. Thanks very much.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Take care. Thank you.
Yes.